Frau Schoman. I was wondering about the role of shame. Apart from fear of disconnecting with your friends and family, I think that shame plays a vital role, while it's getting also difficult to leave the cult. You've told them in auditing all your embarrassing secrets, and while on the ride, you probably have done all kinds of things you are not proud of, especially looking back. When you're still a vulnerable and traumatized person, I think the shame is overproportionally represented, and that could also be a reason not to leave. Fear of thinking not being able to own it when outside. What do you think? That is a very interesting point. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I think from my own experience and what I've seen with others and helping people out of groups that I've helped is that the shame tends to enter in after the fact of leaving more so than being a preventative thing that stops people from leaving. Because in order to feel shame over something, you have to recognize that it's wrong and that you yourself participated in things that were very, very wrong. That's, because shame is not a light grade emotion or feeling. It's a pretty heavy one. So you got to really feel the weight and guilt of your actions. And I've tended to observe and experience that comes on reflection after leaving. Now, that being said, of course, that could be a factor in somebody not wanting to leave a group in the first place. Yes, it could. You could have somebody who's in one of these groups, let's say Scientology, and they come to realize, oh my God, this is all crazy and it's bad and I've been involved in something bad. I've been doing bad things. I feel ashamed about it. There's what we call hindsight bias kicking in at that point where they're starting to think that they should have known things that there was no way they could have known. And when they look back at their memories and experiences in the group and they think, oh my God, how could I have done that? Why didn't I know? I should have known better, and all that stuff comes crashing in. And that could keep them there, like this idea of, well, I can't face that. If I leave, I'm going to have to deal with all that. And, so sure, I guess I could see that could be a factor, but I don't know. The way I look at it, the way I'm interpreting your question, I think a lot of that kicks in after the fact of leaving. And I think it takes a little while. Here's what I've noticed with myself. And with, to a degree, with other people. You get, you're all in on the group. You're just like, man, this is the thing. It's the bomb diggity. I'm going to do this. This is going to be my life's work. I signed a $1 billion contract. And you go all in. Time passes. Experiences happen. Abuse occurs because that's the nature of these groups. And once the abuse hits you hard enough, often enough, whatever your threshold of abuse and pain and suffering is, you finally realize, oh my God, and then you get out. Now, when doing that, people tend to go, there's a lot of people who will then look at the group and think they'll do this. They'll go, oh, it's all great to it's all horrible. And everything is bad, and everything about the group is horrible, and every experience I had was fake and awful, and it doesn't help anybody, and it's just an atrocious set of lies and disgustingness, and it should just be eradicated from the face of the universe. And that is where you live for a long time, or a short time. I mean, time is irrelevant on this. Whether it's a day or whether it's 5 years or 10 years, it's not really the point. That it happens, I think, is something I've observed. So then, with enough time, education, talking, looking, getting some therapy, going over a lot of stuff, if you're so inclined to do so, and many people are, you start going, well, you get some perspective, some time passes, and you go, well, it wasn't all bad, and it wasn't all good. But it wasn't all bad, and you start acknowledging that maybe some of this, could have been what was helpful, was useful. Like when I've said, well, of course some of it was, because otherwise I wouldn't have stayed for 27 years in Scientology. So of course there had to be some good times, and there were. But I didn't want to look at those or pay attention to those or acknowledge those when I first got out of Scientology. I was all about how horrible and awful and evil it is, and it is horrible and awful and evil. But let's not be black and white thinkers, is my point. And you start learning some, you start gaining some perspective and learning about some nuance of thought about the thing, and you can acknowledge that there was good and there was bad. And stay away from it because you also, acknowledge that mostly it was bad. I think that period of time is when the shame factor probably kicks in the most, at least in my experience. I've certainly felt that, and look back on it and went, man, oh God, the things I did to people, and then I reach out, I apologize to people that I could find that I wronged or did horrible things to, and I think that stage of this, and I don't know what to call it, I've not read about this anywhere, I'm just telling you my experience, but I think that stage is really important, because you have to, in order to deal with the experience, I think it's really important that one acknowledge the causal agents, we'll say, of what happened. In other words, you can look at it and go, well, I was just a great big victim, and I didn't do anything wrong, and I was just victimized. And yes, for some people, that's actually true. But I don't think that's true for the majority of people. I think you have to look at it from the point of view of, yes, I was wronged, yes, I was victimized, yes, I was abused, but also maybe I did some victimizing, maybe I did some wronging, maybe I abused some people too. And if you're going to really be honest with yourself and deal with the whole package of nonsense that is sitting there to be dealt with, you have to acknowledge that part also. But that's not something that particularly is going to be really, comfortable and fun to do on day one. So you got to go through this period of like, it was all horrible, and then, and then kind of gain some perspective is what I'm saying. I think you guys get the point. That's been my path. That's what I've experienced. I've seen other people have that too. And I've also seen some people who have not gone there, and I think, and I've observed that they have been holding on to stuff that maybe they could let go if they could just kind of look at it from a couple different perspectives, And again, I have to be, ultra careful here because I'm not trying to say that, people weren't abused or victimized or something, and I don't think that's coming across here, but I want to be clear on the fact that, it's a balanced view that is necessary for, I think, a full and honest recovery from a situation like that. I think that's part of it.